cold, gray oceans of the north, where the wind carries the scent of salt and ancient tales, there lay a small, almost forgotten island. Yet, from this lonely land, an empire would rise. An empire whose reach spread across the world, gaining a name history would never let fade, the empire on which the sun never sets. This is the story of England, of people who looked toward the sea and saw not limits, but destiny. Today, as London's fog drifts across ancient bridges, few remember that these quiet streets once pulsed at the center of global tides. Listen closely. Hear the deep drums echoing from distant centuries, the waves crashing against stubborn cliffs, and the soft whispers of history awakening. Our journey begins where the sun first meets the sea. Before it became an empire, England was only a land of wind, rain, and scattered tribes. The Celts lived in forests and meadows, leaving behind stone circles and legends of warriors. Then Rome arrived, building roads, laws, and order, only for the island to fall into chaos again when the legions withdrew. The Anglo-Saxons formed small kingdoms, but centuries later the Vikings swept in like storms of steel, burning and reshaping the land with every invasion. Yet from this turmoil, a tougher people emerged, forced to unite or perish. And in 1066, William the Conqueror crossed the sea, seizing the island and laying the foundations of a centralized kingdom, the first stone of what would one day become an empire. No one then could imagine that from this fragile, divided land, a power would rise and spread across the globe. As Europe divided the continent, the English chose a different path. They looked to the sea. He who rules the oceans will rule the destiny of the world. From that moment, the seed of an empire began to sprout. From the 16th century, under Henry VIII, England transformed. The king poured resources into shipbuilding, cannon improvement, and fortified ports. He laid the groundwork for the Royal Navy, which would become the most powerful naval force in history. But change was not only in ships or cannons, it was in mindset. A new nation emerged, a nation of sailors. England encouraged daring voyages, bold merchants, and even licensed pirates privateers to challenge Spain and Portugal. Wooden ships cut through stormy seas, sails stretched like giant wings, and cannons thundered across gray oceans. They did not yet know what they were unleashing, but each longer voyage, each farther expedition, brought England closer to its destiny, becoming an empire born of the sea. In storms of steel and fire, the English defeated Europe's most powerful war machine. The year was 1588. Europe trembled as the Spanish Armada advanced. The pride of a global empire, nearly 130 ships, thousands of cannons. Its mission? To crush England and restore Catholic dominance.
Forgive-us our trespass.
I have the heart and stomach of a king, she declared. England's answer: speed, precision, and fire. Blazing ships broke the Armada's perfect formation. Long-range artillery tore into the massive vessels. The seas erupted into chaos.
Fire! We need to put out that fire!
And then, nature chose its side. A great Atlantic storm shattered the Armada's remains. Only a fraction survived, scattered, broken, defeated. The North Sea no longer belonged to Spain, but to England. This victory reshaped the balance of the world's oceans. The oceans were no longer a threat, but an opportunity. The age of English sea power had begun. Not kings alone, but men trading spices, tea, and guns built an empire. The East India Company, a symbol of limitless ambition. In 1600, under Elizabeth I, the company was founded. Initially a merchants' guild, royal charter quickly turned it into an entity beyond trade, with its own army, diplomatic powers, and the right to levy taxes and controlled ports. Many called it a state within a state. India, with its powerful Mughal dynasties, became the first target of expansion. Trading posts gradually evolved into political intervention, wars, and treaties favoring English interests. Cities like Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras became trade hubs for gold, spices, cotton, tea, and firearms. Simultaneously, England ceased to be an isolated island. Through trade, it became a global economic center, connecting continents via ships and port networks. Power lay not only in kings and forts, but in vision, ambition, and the hands of daring merchants. Every ship leaving London carried goods of conquest. Slowly transforming England from a mere island into the heart of a maritime empire. The seas became their lifeblood, and the East India Company the bridge to unprecedented imperial scale. From a merchant's charter, the foundations of an empire were laid. In England, the fire of steam engines illuminated the empire. And that industrial engine required more coal, more cotton, more colonies. The sun of the empire began to rise. By the late 18th century, England entered the Industrial Revolution, unleashing an era unlike any before. James Watt's improved steam engine became the heart of massive factories. Textile machines, ironworks, and technological innovations turned cities like Manchester and Birmingham into bustling production centers. Smoke and fire from towering chimneys demonstrated human power amplified by machinery. Railways stretched across the land, linking coal mines, factories, and ports. England's production surplus supplied not only itself but Europe and the wider world.
Get that crate over here!
On it, Captain!
But this machine demanded raw materials. Cotton from India, rubber from distant colonies. And coal from northern England, and markets to consume its goods. London, with its busy ports and strong banks, became the economic heart of the world, where goods, gold, and ideas converged. From here, England's wealth, power, and influence radiated outward in ever-expanding circles. The sun of the empire shone not only on the seas, but on machines, chimneys, and railways stretching across the country. Industry transformed England from a small island into the center of a world in perpetual change. In the 19th century, you could stand anywhere on Earth from Sydney to Cairo. From Hong Kong to Cape Town. look up, and the English flag would be flying somewhere beneath the sun. The British Empire reached unprecedented heights. About 1/4 of the world's population and territory fell under its control. From North America to the Caribbean, from the Indian coastline to the far deserts of Australia, colonies spread like pieces of a giant map. Every port, every colonial city reflected the kingdom's economic and military might.
Fire!
At the heart of this power lay the Royal Navy, the greatest fleet in history. They patrolled oceans, protected trade routes, defended colonies, and deterred rivals. They appeared on every sea, from the cold North Atlantic to the tropics of the Caribbean and Indian Ocean. But power was not only military. Language, law, and education spread worldwide.
Order. Order in the court.
Habits, lifestyles, and governance practices became benchmarks in many colonies, making England a global cultural hub. The English did not conquer solely with guns or ships. They conquered with ideas, economics, and language. Every road, port, factory, and school bore the mark of an empire that seemed eternal. At its zenith, the sun truly never set on Britain. Wherever ships, trade, and its flag reached, the empire's light shone bright. But even a brilliant sun casts a long shadow. To maintain the empire, the English paid and made others pay a harsh price. Beneath the glow of power, the British Empire hid an unacceptable darkness. Millions were forced into slave labor, transported to fuel Europe's wealth. The Bengal famine of 1770 claimed millions. Worsened by the East India Company's policies. The Indian Rebellion of 1857 was crushed in blood and fire. Such suppression showed that the greater the empire, the greater the conflicts and pressures it faced.
Your Honor, these men are criminals.
Order. Order in the court.
The English used law, army, and economic policy to maintain order, but the cost was immense human suffering. Conquered lands, assimilated cultures, and destroyed lives became shadows that the light of power could not erase. These shadows remind us that even when the sun never set, its light carried the long darkness of injustice, an inseparable part of its history. When the guns of the world thundered, the British Empire, once thought eternal, began to crack. No empire can triumph over history. The two world wars brought unprecedented challenges. War costs, human loss, and economic strain pushed Britain close to bankruptcy. Though still significant, England could no longer maintain global power as before. Meanwhile, new powers rose: the United States and the Soviet Union. With superior industrial and military strength reshaping the global balance, Britain was no longer the world center. It became part of a new order dominated by superpowers. At the same time, Independence movements spread across the colonies.
Quit
India, the empire's heart and jewel, rose, demanding self-rule. In 1947, India's independence marked the greatest turning point. It signaled the end of an era. The empire that once spanned 4 continents began to shrink. Colonies gained independence. The sun that never set faded into memory. History proves, no matter how powerful, no empire can resist time and the shifting of power. The British Empire may no longer control territory as it once did. But in commerce, politics, and the language we use every day, its imprint has never set. Like the sun, it continues to shine on the world it once shaped. Today, English is the global lingua franca. The parliamentary system, legal framework, and English-style education still influence many countries. Values, institutions, and ideas planted across distant lands remain alive. The Commonwealth demonstrates enduring ties. So, has the British Empire truly vanished? Or has it merely transformed, existing through culture, law, and global influence? The empire that once made the sun never set, its mark still shines across the world today.